Episode 33. A Beautiful Knife to Scare. When David Swan heard the agonised screams coming from the room, he burst into a loud, harsh cackle. Hot damn, what an idiot! He really took it! David Swan clutched his stomach, feeling proud of what he'd done. Even a young man in his 20s couldn't handle the improved version of drugs, let alone a 50-year-old man like Carson. Swan had specially concocted this drug. It served that old man right. He wanted to have sex so badly, and now he had the most powerful Viagra ever. When Lucas saw Dario leave the club, he immediately called an ambulance and tipped off the media to gather at the Scoville Club. It was safe to assume that Victor Carson would be in the headlines tomorrow. Rich old man hospitalised for an overdose on Viagra. Ha! He's done for in his social circle now, and Suzanne Winslet too. There goes her social life. Man, Dario really came up with quite the plan for revenge. How have I never noticed before how evil he is? Lucas glanced at David Swan, and he instantly scurried away. Can I open my eyes now? Dario could not help smiling as he looked at Jade, who was still covering her eyes. Not yet, Dario commanded. Jade then obediently put her hands back over her eyes. She did not know how long he'd been carrying her. All she knew was that the moment she replied to him with an "oh," she could feel something moist pressing against her lips, as if someone was kissing her. She slowly opened her eyes and directly met his, just inches from hers. She was so shocked, she nearly fell from his arms. Luckily, Dario hugged her tightly. What are you doing? At that moment, she felt as though she was about to suffocate. She could feel her ears turning red. Dario said nothing and carried her to another, even more luxurious room. After closing the door, he laid her down on the bed. Seeing no trace of emotion on his face, she could not tell what was on his mind. Jade sat nervously on the bed. So, Mr. Foster, is there something you'd like to talk about? Could we do it somewhere else? Why are we in a hotel room? To be honest, Jade was frightened to be in this room. Dario stared at her gloomily, as if he was trying to read her mind, and asked coldly, "What were you doing in that room with that man?" Facing his aggressive tone, Jade was baffled. She suddenly felt that the relationship between them was not merely just friendly. Why would he care what she was doing in the room with Victor Carson? He wasn't even her boyfriend. Jade kept a straight face but said not a word. She didn't know where to begin. Seeing her silence, Dario pinned her down on the bed. "Mr. Foster, don't do this." Jade blushed, covering her face to avoid eye contact. Why was he always doing this? And why did she not seem to hate it? No matter how forcefully he kissed her, or pinned her down, what was going on with her? "You better be good and tell me the truth, or else don't even think of getting up," Dario said in an unyielding voice, squinting his long, narrow eyes. Jade gulped. She knew that she was transparent as glass before him. She could not hide any of her thoughts, so she had no plan to lie. In the end, she sighed helplessly and stuttered, "It's my aunt. She sold me to that man. For $5 million as a marriage gift. I didn't expect I was worth that much." Jade smiled wryly as she held up 5 fingers. Her sad smile was heartbreaking. She was not glad for the money. She felt only sorrow at being forced to marry an old man who had divorced multiple times. "I'm asking you, why are you there?" Dario grabbed her arm tightly, with a terrifying look in his eyes. Without waiting for her answer, Dario interrupted. "Even if she sold you, do you really want to sell yourself?" Jade glared at him and shouted angrily, "Don't be ridiculous. I'm not that kind of person. I was planning to threaten him." "Oh? And how are you going to threaten him?" Dario stared as if mocking her. There was a hint of worry in his emotionless eyes, but she did not notice it. "With a knife? I even brought it with me." With that, Jade took out a tiny penknife, only a few centimeters long. Dario was dumbfounded. She actually tried to threaten a man with a penknife? Where did this girl's confidence come from? "You certainly are bold." Jade understood the meaning behind his words and lowered her head silently. Every time she faced his rebuke, she felt like a child who had made a mistake, quietly waiting for his criticism. Her body trembled, and Dario grabbed her wrist when he saw a slight movement of her right hand. "What are you doing?" "Checking on you." Dario spat out the words indifferently. He examined her palm and saw that the cut had healed. There was no fresh wound. He let go of her hand with satisfaction. "At least you listen. Let's continue our discussion." Jade was shocked, but she carried on with her explanation. "I didn't want to do it, but I really had no choice. If I hadn't agreed, my aunt would have thought of some other way to torture me. So I thought, I might as well show them what I've got." When Jade said this, Dario was stunned, though he also felt like laughing. Who would have thought that such a stubborn and strong soul existed within her tiny body? It was just that her method of self-defense was ridiculous. Therefore, Jade explained, she had promised Aunt Suzanne that she would come here today. She had no plan to compromise herself. She came because she chose to fight back. Just in case, she had recorded the conversation between them so she could use it to threaten him. However, she didn't realize things were so much more complicated. "So do you think you will succeed?" From Dario's disdainful tone, Jade could tell that her plan was doomed. At that moment, Jade was filled with mixed emotions. There was anger, but there was also despair and grief. But from the moment she saw Dario in the bathroom, she'd begun to see a glimpse of hope, to feel safe.